the Supreme Court Justice RBG passing away.
Yeah.
And the liberals and some progressives were celebrating the life of RBG and mourning her death. Many people were freaking out about her death because this means that she will now be replaced in an already majority conservative Supreme Court. And AOC was echoing the Democratic establishment by saying things like Obamacare and abortion rights are on the line now because of her potentially getting replaced with a Trump-appointed conservative judge. Now, I do want to say I hope she does rest in peace, RBG. I will be honest and say I am new to hardcore politics. I did know who she was. I knew that she was a liberal judge on the Supreme Court. I knew from an interview I had with independent presidential candidate Mark Charles that she constantly made decisions that hurt the Native American community, like her decision with DAPL. I know that she was very old. She died at 87 years old. And that she was making many appearances in entertainment, like being on the Jimmy Kimmel Show. She was on Stephen Colbert, etc. I know that the liberals praised her, and then they would use her as a threat to progressives who were sick of the Democratic Party, that if they don't vote blue, then a Republican president like Donald Trump can replace her when she retires, and he's going to replace her with a conservative. But thanks to a very well-written and honest article by Lucas Wagner, who's from Case Study QB and the MCSC Network, I was able to inform myself even deeper on her neoliberal policies about how progressives shouldn't be celebrating her as this progressive judge. So I will list some of those policies after I hear from my panel what their commentary is about this. But I do want to make another point, and I want to bring up that we already had a majority conservative Supreme Court for years. So if they wanted to get rid of abortion rights, if they wanted to get rid of the ACA, they would have done so already. Even if she got replaced by the most progressive judge in history, we'd still have a majority conservative court. And even still, her record shows that she was a neoliberal and was put there because she was approved by the corporate oligarchs. And whether we have Trump or Biden, we will get a neoliberal or neoconservative judge. So am I wrong here, guys? Am I wrong about people overreacting about the ramifications of RBG's death?
Yeah, that's
laid out, like, the more practical reality of what should happen. I think like the doomsday scenario, of like a Supreme Court justice coming in before the election, normalizing anything after the election so that Trump stays in, and then Trump decides to stack the court, or something to that vein. Some kind of doomsday scenario that whoever funds the Democrats is thinking is more plausible now. But to your point, like everything that's happened this year to the Democrats, they kind of did it to themselves. So
yeah, they're not fighting, and we will get into that. I do want to bring up what was occurring recently with Dianne Feinstein and some of the other corporate Democrats. But what are your thoughts, Dak?
I think Jeff was about to go before
Jeff.
So Jeff, you go ahead.
We'll hear from you.
I mean, I've heard this argument over and over that, if we get, if Ginsburg dies and is replaced, then they're going to throw out Roe versus Wade, and they're going to throw out Obergefell, I think it is, the gay marriage ruling.
Obergefell v. Hodges.
Yeah. And I mean, the latter was passed in 2015, or decided on in 2015, and wasn't there a conservative majority on the Supreme Court then?
Yeah.
And I think there was. And Roe v. Wade came about at the height of the feminist movements. It wasn't just because some wise old men decided out of the goodness of their hearts to give women the right to abortion. There was a massive social movement to put that right into place. And ever since the 70s, abortion rights have been chipped away slowly but steadily over the years, so that most women in this country right now cannot get an abortion at any place very close to them. and maybe can't afford it. So it always comes, and with the gay rights movement, same thing. It came about because there was this decades-long, powerful movement for gay rights, which resulted in strong pressure being brought to bear on our governmental institutions to institute gay marriage. And so, I can't imagine that no matter what the composition of the court is, they would be nutty enough to get rid of gay marriage. That would just produce utter chaos, and they're not going to do it. And I don't think it would be any different with abortion.
Harry Blackmun, the Supreme Court justice who wrote the majority opinion in Roe v. Wade, was appointed by President Nixon. This has been one of the constant battle cries that we've heard from the neoliberals over the last however many years, is that if we don't vote for a Democrat president, then a Republican president. Sorry?
They're going to be like, but the judges.
Well, so in other words, if Trump replaces RBG before the election, then I don't have to vote for Biden, right? Because the damage has already been inflicted. I wasn't hoping that RBG died, but I did think that it would be really entertaining to see the freak out that would occur among the neoliberals if she did pass away. And so when I landed, when my plane landed in New Hampshire on Friday and I went on Twitter and saw that she was dead, there was a part of me that did get a little like, oh my God, it's starting now. And I made sure to call up one of my neoliberal friends who said that one of her friends was crying, and she made sure to hug her mother, because this is just such a dark day in American history. Because apparently we're told that this person who was appointed to the Supreme Court 30 years ago is the reason that women have the right to vote, that women have the right to drive, that women have the right to get a job, that women have the right to speak in public. I mean, it's just so ahistorical, the collective frenzy around this oligarch's legacy. I mean, you have to be skeptical of any person who is embraced by the masses. And the fact that CNN published a documentary on her a few years ago that drummed up her demand and rather childishly compared her to the notorious B.I.G. There's this... The way that she was fetishized, I remember the BBC tried to convince non-American readers that every American woman has a tattoo of RBG on her thigh. I mean, this just isn't true. And the way that we have the cult surrounding RBG, I mean, if this really, people are saying that this nomination process is going to be even more contentious and brutal than the nomination of Kavanaugh. I don't see how that could be possible. But if it is, then I would say, maybe we don't deserve to get better as a country. Maybe we deserve to fall apart and acknowledge that we really are as ugly as people in the rest of the world believe.
Well, yeah, the world's always said, like America just takes what it wants. And clearly Donald Trump, if he can't take the presidency, he will. And I think, I mean, people in my world were sad that RBG died, but some people weren't sad when Kobe died. I was like, oh, that kind of sucks, and other people are like, he's a rapist. And I'm like, well,
Were you crying when
I wasn't
Kobe
crying.
died?
I was like,
Okay, yeah, exactly.
But some people were crying, I wasn't gonna be like, hey, shut up, don't cry about Kobe.
I wouldn't tell them to shut up, but if they didn't know him personally, like, it's kind of weird that they would be crying. Like, it's just, I mean, with RBG, like, and as for the Roe v. Wade, as for the Roe v. Wade issue, I'm not really convinced that the next generation of girls is going to be quite as rigidly pro-abortion as perhaps some of the bourgeois feminists want to think that they are. I think that there is a diversity of thought on that subject, including among women, that is not acknowledged by the mainstream media. Roe v. Wade being repealed, I don't know that is going to be the darkest day in American history.
But it's plausible, right?
What is?
Getting it repealed.
For Roe v. Wade to get appealed?
Repealed, yeah. I mean, I'm ambivalent on it. I hope that they do rule Obamacare as unconstitutional, because the Affordable Care Act was horrendous. As for Roe v. Wade, I mean, I'm ambivalent on it. I think there's arguments to be made on both sides.
And I think that when Donald Trump flexes that he would like Tom Cotton or Ted Cruz in the Supreme Court, he's virtuing that he wants someone that would put in the work and chops and language to repeal Roe v. Wade. But then he's going to put in someone else that's soft, but then he gets to pick maybe like 2 more picks afterwards. And I mean, I don't know what women are going to do. We'll see what their reaction is to this election. But, I do think that, Roe v. Wade isn't like where feminism like lives and breathes or goes to die, but it's a canary, I guess, for a lot of people. And I don't know. I think that that's where the panic comes from. I don't share in it, but I also don't like I do empathize, I guess.
So with like the ACA, I saw a video that Kyle Kalinske made in which he was saying that if Medicare for All ever were to like the courts would try to block it now if Trump were to have his way. I don't think the courts can block Medicare for All just because they don't like it. There has to be some part of it that is unconstitutional. There has to be a legal argument. So like with the ACA, and Dak brought this up, Obamacare, what they found to be unconstitutional is that the government was telling people to buy health insurance, which goes against the individual mandate. So there needs to be lawyers that review a bill to make sure it goes through without the court challenging it. So if Medicare for All ever were to pass, it would take years for a case to be made in the court. And I think people are being hyperbolic about this by thinking that no lefty legislation will ever pass under a conservative majority court, because we have had lefty legislation pass in the past, right?
Yeah.
So I want to read a little bit from Lucas's article. Again, he's from Case Study QB and the MCSC Network. So in his report, which I'll link in the description for people to check out, he writes that just this year, in the Kansas v. Glover case, she voted in favor of law enforcement. The decision, as Sotomayor explained in her dissent, effectively guts some of our 4th Amendment protections in Kansas v. Glover.
I assume.
Huh?
I assume he meant 4th Amendment.
Yeah, 4th Amendment. 4th Amendment protections. In Kansas v. Glover, the sheriff ran the license plate of an old pickup truck, discovering it was owned by Glover. However, the sheriff had no evidence that it was, in fact, Glover driving the vehicle at the time. Despite this, the sheriff stopped Glover. Ginsburg voted to ensure that these types of negative inferences qualify as reasonable suspicion for stopping a vehicle.
Yeah,
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah.
Christy's also ready to come on whenever you want her to.
Got it. Yeah. So the article lists a whole bunch of other stuff. We won't list all of it here, but I recommend everybody to check it out.